Are you eating healthy but still feeling exhausted, foggy, and watching the years creep up faster than you'd like? You've tried the diets, maybe you've invested in expensive supplements, perhaps you've even forced yourself to choke down foods you hate because some article told you they'd add years to your life, and yet here you are, still wondering why nothing seems to be working. What if I told you that the longest lived people on Earth, the ones who routinely reach 100 while staying sharp, active, and full of life, aren't following complicated protocols? They're not taking expensive supplements. They're not obsessing over the latest superfood trends. They're eating five simple, affordable foods every single day. And one of these foods was so powerful that it caught the attention of a Nobel Prize winning scientist whose research changed everything we thought we knew about aging. Here's the surprising part. You've probably walked past these foods in the grocery store 1,000 times without a second glance. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what these foods are, why they work on a cellular level, and how to incorporate them into your life starting today. No fancy equipment, no expensive ingredients, just simple changes backed by the most robust longevity research ever conducted. Stay with me. Let me explain why most of us are getting this wrong. Here's what's really going on inside your body right now. Every day, your cells are accumulating damage. Proteins are misfolding. Cellular debris is piling up. Inflammation is quietly spreading through your tissues like rust, slowly corroding an engine. This is aging, not the wrinkles on your face. That's just the surface. The real aging happens deep inside at the cellular level, where damaged components accumulate faster than your body can clean them up. Think of your body like a city. A healthy city has sanitation workers, recycling programs, and repair crews constantly maintaining the infrastructure. But what happens when the garbage trucks stop running? When the maintenance crews go home? The streets fill with waste, buildings crumble, systems break down. That's what's happening in most people's bodies by middle age. The cellular cleanup crews, the systems responsible for recycling damaged components and keeping your cells young and functional, are overwhelmed. In 2016, a Japanese scientist named Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for uncovering exactly how this cleanup system works. It's called autophagy, literally self-eating. It's your body's way of recycling old, damaged cellular components and turning them into fresh, new building blocks. Here's the breakthrough. Ohsumi's research showed that this autophagy process isn't just running automatically in the background. It can be activated, it can be enhanced, and specific foods play a direct role in keeping this system functioning optimally. The populations that live the longest in places researchers call blue zones, like Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya, Costa Rica, and Icaria, Greece. They've been eating these autophagy-supporting foods for generations, not because they read about Nobel Prize research, but because these foods became the cornerstone of their traditional diets over centuries. When researchers finally analyzed what these centenarians were eating, they found something remarkable. Despite living on different continents, speaking different languages, and having completely different cultures, they all shared five common foods in their daily diets. And the research supporting these foods isn't thin. We're talking about meta-analyses involving over 1 million people, Harvard studies spanning decades, population research that followed centenarians from birth to death. The evidence is overwhelming, and the foods are surprisingly simple. In this video, I'll show you the 5 foods that consistently appear in the diets of the world's longest-lived populations, backed by peer-reviewed science and Nobel Prize research. We'll cover the humble food that researchers call the single most important dietary predictor of longevity. We'll explore why a handful of something most people ignore could add years to your life. I'll show you the leafy secret that keeps centenarians' brains sharp into their 90s and beyond. We'll discuss a Mediterranean staple that cuts dementia-related death by 28%. And finally, I'll reveal why feeding the trillions of organisms in your gut might be the most overlooked longevity strategy of all. For each food, I'll give you a simple protocol, exactly how much, how often, and the easiest ways to incorporate it into your daily routine. Let's start with the most important one. If there's one food that separates centenarians from everyone else, it's this: beans. I know, not exciting, not trendy. You won't see beans featured on magazine covers or promoted by influencers. But here's what the research shows. Legumes are the single most important dietary predictor of survival in elderly populations worldwide. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your bloodstream as a busy highway. Every time you eat refined carbohydrates, white bread, sugary snacks, processed foods, it's like dumping thousands of cars onto that highway all at once. Traffic grinds to a halt. Your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas frantically releases insulin. Your body goes into emergency mode. Beans do the opposite. They're made up of about 77% complex carbohydrates, the kind that enter your bloodstream slowly, like cars merging onto the highway one at a time. Smooth traffic flow, steady energy, no emergency signals. But that's just the beginning. A 2023 meta-analysis studying over 1 million people found that every 20 grams of legumes consumed daily, that's just 2 tablespoons, was associated with a 7 to 8% lower risk of death from all causes. The people in blue zones aren't eating 2 tablespoons. They're eating a full cup every single day. Here's the key point most people miss. Beans contain resistant starch, which feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. These bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation throughout your entire body. Remember that cellular rust I mentioned earlier? Beans help clean it up. Here's a simple protocol. Start with half a cup of cooked beans daily. That's the minimum. Black beans, lentils, chickpeas, white beans. It doesn't matter. In Nicoya, they eat black beans. In Sardinia, it's white beans and lentils. In Okinawa, it's soybeans. Pick the ones you enjoy and eat them consistently. The easiest approach? Add beans to something you already eat. Throw them in salads, blend them into soups, mash them onto toast. The centenarians don't overthink this. Beans are just part of every meal. If you're finding value in this so far, consider subscribing. I share evidence-based health content regularly, and there's more to cover on this list. Here's the second food, and this one surprised researchers. In the Adventist Health Study, one of the largest and longest-running diet and lifestyle studies ever conducted, following over 96,000 people, scientists discovered something remarkable about nuts. People who ate nuts daily lived 2 to 3 years longer than those who didn't. 2 to 3 years from eating nuts. Let me explain why this makes sense biologically. Think of your cardiovascular system as an irrigation system for a vast farm. Your heart is the pump, your arteries are the pipes, and inflammation is like mineral buildup that slowly narrows those pipes over time. Nuts, particularly walnuts, almonds, and pistachios, contain compounds that actively prevent this buildup. They're rich in omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin E, magnesium, and plant sterols that lower LDL cholesterol while raising HDL cholesterol. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that people who consume nuts 5 or more times per week had a 14% lower risk of cardiovascular disease and a 20% lower risk of coronary heart disease compared to those who rarely ate nuts. Here's the mistake most people make. They eat nuts as junk food, roasted in industrial oils, coated in sugar or salt, processed until most of the beneficial compounds are destroyed. Blue Zone centenarians eat nuts differently, raw or lightly roasted, unsalted, as a simple snack or sprinkled over meals. Here's a practical protocol. Eat 2 small handfuls of nuts daily. That's about 2 ounces. Mix it up. Almonds for vitamin E, walnuts for omega-3s, Brazil nuts for selenium, pistachios for heart health. Keep a small container at your desk, in your car, wherever you tend to snack. In Korea, they favor almonds. In Sardinia, it's almonds and hazelnuts. The Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda eat a variety, with walnuts being particularly popular. The key is consistency. A handful today, a handful tomorrow, a handful every day for the rest of your life. Now let's talk about your brain. Cognitive decline is one of the most feared aspects of aging. The idea of losing your memories, your sharpness, your independence, it keeps people up at night. Here's what the research shows about leafy green vegetables and brain health. A study from Rush University followed older adults for nearly 5 years, testing their memory and thinking skills regularly while tracking their diets. The results were remarkable. People who ate just 1 serving of leafy greens per day, spinach, kale, collard greens, lettuce, experienced cognitive decline at a rate that made their brains appear 11 years younger than those who rarely ate greens. 11 years younger. from eating salad. Here's what's really going on inside your brain when you eat leafy greens. These vegetables are loaded with vitamin K, folate, beta-carotene, and flavonoids, compounds that protect neurons from oxidative damage and support the production of neurotransmitters. Think of your brain as a garden. Neurons are the plants. And oxidative stress is like a drought that slowly wilts everything. Leafy greens act like a steady rain, delivering the nutrients your neurons need to stay healthy and connected. But here's the surprising part. The benefits aren't limited to brain health. Leafy greens are also associated with reduced risk of heart disease, certain cancers, and type 2 diabetes. They're one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, delivering maximum nutrition with minimal calories. In blue zones, leafy greens are eaten daily. In Okinawa, it's bitter melon leaves and sweet potato greens. In Ikaria, it's wild greens foraged from the hillsides, over 75 different varieties. In Sardinia and Nicoya, it's whatever grows locally and seasonally. Here's a simple protocol. Aim for 1 cup of raw leafy greens or half a cup of cooked greens every single day. Add spinach to your morning smoothie. Sauté kale with garlic as a side dish. Throw a handful of arugula on top of whatever you're eating. The centenarians don't eat sad, boring salads. They cook their greens with olive oil, garlic, onions, and herbs. They make them delicious, and they eat them consistently. Speaking of olive oil, let's talk about the 4th food on this list. In Ikaria, Greece, where people are 3 times more likely to reach 90 than Americans, researchers found something striking about olive oil consumption. Middle-aged people who consumed about 6 tablespoons of olive oil daily cut their risk of dying in half. A Harvard study following over 90,000 people for nearly 3 decades found that those who consumed the most olive oil, a little more than half a tablespoon per day, had a 19% lower risk of death from all causes. They also had a 28% lower risk of dying from dementia-related causes. Here's what's really going on at the cellular level. Extra virgin olive oil contains over 30 different polyphenols, powerful antioxidant compounds that protect your cells from oxidative damage. One of these polyphenols, called oleocanthal, has anti-inflammatory effects similar to ibuprofen. Another, called oleuropein, has been shown to activate autophagy, that Nobel Prize winning cellular cleanup process. Let me explain with an analogy. Think of your cell membranes as the walls of a house. These walls are made largely of fats. When you consume industrial seed oils, highly processed, easily oxidized, it's like building your walls with cheap, rotting wood. They break down quickly. The monounsaturated fats in olive oil are like building with solid oak, stable, strong, resistant to damage. Here's the mistake most people make. They buy cheap olive oil that's been sitting on store shelves for months, already oxidized before they open the bottle, or they cook with it at temperatures that destroy the beneficial compounds. Blue Zone centenarians use fresh, high-quality extra virgin olive oil. They drizzle it on bread, vegetables, and salads. They use it as the primary cooking fat, but at moderate temperatures. Here's a practical protocol. Use 2 to 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily. Look for oil in dark glass bottles with a harvest date on the label. Use it generously on salads, vegetables, and whole grains. For cooking, keep temperatures moderate. Medium heat is fine, but don't let it smoke. I share content like this regularly. If you want to see more evidence-based longevity research, the subscribe button is right below. The 5th food is actually a category of foods, and it might be the most overlooked longevity factor of all. Fermented foods. Here's something that will change how you think about your body. You're not just one organism, you're a walking ecosystem. Trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms live in your gut, and they influence everything from your immune function to your mood to your risk of chronic disease. A landmark study from Stanford University found that people who ate 6 servings of fermented foods daily for just 10 weeks experienced a significant increase in gut microbiome diversity and a measurable decrease in inflammatory markers throughout their entire body. Inflammation, the cellular rust we talked about at the beginning. Fermented foods help clean it up by supporting the organisms that keep your immune system in balance. Think of your gut microbiome as a rainforest ecosystem. Diversity is health. When you have many different species of beneficial bacteria, they keep each other in check, crowd out harmful microbes, and produce compounds that benefit your entire body. When diversity drops, from antibiotics, processed foods, or chronic stress, the ecosystem collapses. Inflammation rises, disease follows. Here's what the research shows about fermented foods. They don't just add beneficial bacteria to your gut. They create an environment where beneficial bacteria thrive. They're like planting seeds while also enriching the soil. In Okinawa, people eat miso and fermented tofu daily. In Sardinia, it's pecorino cheese made from sheep's milk. In Icaria, it's fermented goat's milk yogurt. The Nicoyans ferment corn for their tortillas. Every blue zone has traditional fermented foods at the center of their diet. Here's a simple protocol. Include at least one serving of fermented food daily. Yogurt with live cultures, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, kombucha. Even traditional sourdough bread counts. It's fermented with lactobacilli that pre-digest the gluten and starches. The key is choosing fermented foods with live, active cultures. Many commercial versions are pasteurized, which kills the beneficial organisms. Read labels. Look for live cultures or unpasteurized. Let's bring everything together. The 5 foods that the world's longest-lived people eat every single day are beans, nuts, leafy greens, olive oil, and fermented foods. Not expensive supplements, not exotic superfoods. Simple, affordable, accessible foods that humans have been eating for thousands of years. Here's the paradigm shift I want you to take away from this video. Longevity isn't about adding things to your diet. It's not about finding the one magic food or supplement that will unlock extra decades of life. The centenarians and blue zones don't think that way. Longevity is about consistency. It's about eating the same simple whole foods day after day, year after year, decade after decade. It's about building meals around beans and vegetables instead of meat. It's about reaching for nuts instead of processed snacks. It's about drizzling olive oil on everything and letting fermented foods support your gut ecosystem. These foods work together. The fiber in beans feeds the bacteria introduced by fermented foods. The polyphenols in olive oil reduce the inflammation that could otherwise damage your brain, which the leafy greens are also protecting. The healthy fats in nuts help your body absorb the fat-soluble vitamins in your vegetables. It's a system, and systems are more powerful than isolated interventions. Remember that Nobel Prize winning research on autophagy? These foods support that cellular cleanup process. They reduce inflammation. They protect your DNA from damage. They work on the deepest biological mechanisms of aging, not by being exotic or expensive, but by being consistently consumed over a lifetime. The centenarians in Sardinia and Okinawa and Icaria didn't need to read the research. They inherited these dietary patterns from their grandparents. They ate this way because it was normal. You can make it normal too. Here's what I want you to do. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one food from this list, just one, and commit to eating it every single day for the next 30 days. Maybe it's beans, half a cup daily. Add them to salads, soups, or just eat them straight from a can. Make it so easy you can't fail. Maybe it's nuts. Keep a small bag in your pocket. Grab a handful whenever you'd normally reach for something processed. Start with one. Build the habit, then add the next. This isn't about perfection. The centenarians in blue zones don't weigh their portions or track their macros. They just eat good food, consistently, with people they love. You have more control over your health span than you think. Not through extreme measures or expensive interventions, through simple daily choices, repeated over time. If this video helped you, I'd appreciate it if you'd share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more evidence-based longevity content, consider subscribing. I release new videos regularly, diving deep into the research that actually matters. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next video.